Today we're going to go over the structures of the brain. The brain is composed of two cerebral hemispheres. We have a right cerebral hemisphere, a left cerebral hemisphere, and the two are separated by the longitudinal fissure. On the surface of the cerebral hemispheres, you have these ridges or bumps referred to as gyri, and little grooves in between those ridges or bumps, and those grooves are referred to as sulci. We have 5 lobes of the brain. We've got the frontal lobe, the parietal lobe, the temporal lobe, and the occipital lobe. And the 5th lobe is the insula, which is located in here. So right there where my pointer is pointing is the insula. Now, on the surface of the brain, you'll notice that there is a sulcus that runs across both hemispheres, and this is referred to as the central sulcus. It actually helps to demarcate the frontal lobe and the parietal lobe. So in front of the central sulcus, we have the precentral gyrus, and behind the central sulcus, we have the postcentral gyrus. We have a lateral sulcus that helps to demarcate the temporal lobe from the frontal and parietal lobes. There is a parieto-occipital sulcus that is not really well defined on this model, so don't worry about that particular sulcus. If we go ahead and open up the brain and look at the structures from a sagittal viewpoint, we can see the corpus callosum, which is this large area of white matter that connects both halves of the cerebrum together. The inferior portion of the corpus callosum is this beige tissue right here, which is referred to as the fornix. And here we have the choroid plexus. This area just inferior to the choroid plexus is the thalamus. This dark brown spot is the intermediate mass or interthalamic adhesion. The tissue from this point down to where you see the W is referred to as the hypothalamus, and just anterior and inferior to the hypothalamus, you will find the optic chiasm or optic chiasma. When we look at the structures just inferior and posterior to the corpus callosum, here we find this little pine-shaped structure. This guy right here is your pineal gland. And then right here we have the corpora quadrigemina. There's actually 2 little bumps here. The corpora quadrigemina is made up of the superior and inferior colliculi. Here we have our brainstem. The brainstem is made up of 3 structures. Remember I talked to you about the bird head with the beak. The bird head with the beak is the midbrain or mesencephalon. Then we have the pons, which is the belly of the bird. And then the lower portion of the bird is the medulla oblongata. Just underneath the bird beak, this little berry, is the mammillary body. Okay, here we have the cerebellum with the arbor vitae. Cerebellum literally translated means little brain. Now if we were to look at where the ventricles would be, the lateral ventricle would be located here. The 3rd ventricle goes around the diencephalon, which includes the thalamus, hypothalamus, epithalamus. The structure right here is the cerebral aqueduct, and then this structure right here would be your 4th ventricle. Remembering that the ventricles would more than likely be tested on when we show you the model of the ventricles rather than on this model. But those are the structures of this particular brain model. Remember, we have the other sagittal brain model, and I've done the optic nerves, all the other cranial nerves, and those structures as well on a different video.